Hello there, Matthew here again with you, and in this video we are going to explore BIM Track's web viewer. So the viewer is a model viewing platform where we can view IFC models. In our previous video we had talked about publishing the Revit models up to the cloud along with the sheets or PDFs that can be generated from the Revit environment. In this video, we're going to take a look at another way of getting these IFCs into the viewer. So when we're in BIM Track's viewer right here, you'll find yourself on the project tree where you can add IFC files. You can simply drag and drop your files right here, or you can go and search for them. So I've got a bunch of IFC models right here. So I'll just select all of them and hit open. You are prompted to attach a discipline to an IFC model. And these disciplines are being pulled in from BIM Track's project settings. So here my architectural model will be associated to the architectural discipline. This is my structural concrete right there. Here's my structural steel right there. There's site. I might have one, we'll put that specifications. Here's plumbing, fire. There's HVAC is mechanical, electrical, and away we go. We start the upload and you'll notice that 8 new 3D models are being uploaded. During this process, you can close this dialog box and it will continue to upload those IFCs. This does not take long, this process, and you'll notice the models visible in the project tree now. They are currently processing. While they're processing, we can add folders, either named by date or perhaps by discipline. So I'll call this one Arc Model. I'll pull my architectural model up into that folder, create a second one called Structural Models. There we go, and find my structural models and pull them into that folder, like so. We can repeat this process. The same intelligence applies to the sheets. So here I have no PDF sheets yet, but if I click Import PDF Files, I'm able to go and search for them. So I've got some PDFs right here. I can pull in separate PDF sheets, or if I have combined PDFs, we'll take this example right here. This is the architectural set. When I click open, BIM Track automatically separates each individual sheet, and I'm ready to start this upload. Do so real quick. It will bring in 12 new sheets. And as I mentioned before, we have that ability of publishing the sheets directly from the Revit environment as well. We'll see how it might differ. So all of those sheets have updated or loaded in. We can simply toggle those on and off. If we head back here, you'll notice a lot of these models are still analyzing. It's in progress. So I'm going to jump into a project where I've already accomplished or already finished this entire process. So if we head to the viewer, you'll notice my architectural and site models, my electrical plumbing models, all in their appropriate folders. To turn on these models, we simply toggle that switch right there. If I turn on the architectural skin, it gets displayed right there for us. If I turn that off and turn on the structural steel model, we see it right here. Now, I'm sure you noticed that the color scheme that's been applied was done so by setting up the categories in our project settings. These are global overrides. That's why the slabs are transparent, my columns are this red color, and my beams are this turquoise-ish blue. So let's go ahead and turn on a couple of different models here. We'll turn on the poured concrete, we'll turn on the plumbing, HVAC, fire, we'll turn on the electrical, we'll turn on all of the models except the site and architectural skin. Now I notice down below here I've got all of the rebar modeled. I've got a lot of little outlets here. I may find this to be too much information. So if we skip down to the categories, we have the ability of hiding specific categories or applying color overrides. So let's turn off the reinforcing mesh, the reinforcing rebar right there, and maybe even footings. You'll notice some of my footings disappear. We can leave those on. I can override colors simply by selecting it and changing it to, again, whatever I'd like. So now my flow fittings are all turquoise. I can change my flow segments to this. Here, we'll go with the purple. And we see that change globally. So this is what we can perform in the categories. These color and transparency and visual graphic overrides are session dependent. That means if I were to reload this page and turn those models back on, those colors will not be saved unless we create a saved view. So let's back out a little bit, take a look at our model, and head to the saved views. The saved view right here functions similarly to the way Revit's project browser does, or saved views within Navisworks. So let's create a new view. And we said that this is our structural and MEP trades. So I create that view and then I update it. And that saves those color overrides, the transparencies, whatever I've put in here, as well as the combination of models. So if I head back to the project tree and I turn on the architectural skin, I can head back to the saved views and create a federated model. Create that and update it. Now I have the ability of switching between those two saved views. So you'll notice turns off the architectural skin, applies my color overrides, my visibility graphics, and if we head back to the federated model, it'll turn on that architectural skin for us, just like that. If we open the sheets, we see the PDFs that were published directly from my structural model, and perhaps PDFs that I've imported manually. The sheets that were published from the Revit environment, when toggled on, will automatically align with the model. So here's my MES plan, and if I zoom in right here, I can now see all of this additional 2D information, such as joist tags, dimension strings, grid lines, you name it. And if we orbit, we can see that the sheet was correctly placed at the appropriate location on top of the model. This may look a little bit better if we turn off that architectural model right there. Great. We can now create a saved view, and this was the MES plan. So if I say create view, MES plan, hypermodel, and again, update, I'm able to return to this saved view with this sheet already applied. If we open up this sheet right here called sections and callouts, we have the ability to show all of the views that are on this individual sheet. So we're looking at the longitudinal section. We can see how it was placed appropriately on the project. If I hit the transversal section right here, the sheet resizes or relocates and is now placed on the model correctly. And if I hit this call out, we see the sheet being resized and applied right in the appropriate location. Sheets that were perhaps imported manually, as we saw earlier, take the architectural page 7 here, we notice that this sheet is not aligned correctly. And this could be for a variety of reasons. Perhaps if this model came from another platform that exports PDFs, the scales may have been incorrect. So let's turn on the architectural skin so it's nice and easy to see what we're looking at. Head back to that sheet. What we want to do is click these 3 little dots and we want to edit in viewer. We can slide this tray out of our way to give our model space a little bit more screen real estate, and I want to fit the sheet. And at the corner of that sheet, that PDF, I notice these two nodes, which we are going to use to resize the sheet. I recommend doing this in an orthographic view. So by selecting camera, you can switch between perspective and orthographic. I recommend orthographic because now we're looking straight down. I simply select the node, click and drag, and I place it somewhere on the model in the sheet. So I'll aim right for the corner of this model, or maybe that structural intersection right there. Perfect. You can zoom in and get very precise. I then hold Control and drag that node to the appropriate location, which is in this general vicinity right there. We head to the other corner of the sheet. It's up here. We'll move it, zoom in. We'll find a nice looking column right here. And then again, by holding Control and dragging, I simply line up my sheet where it needs to be. So right there, perfect. The closer you zoom in, the more precise you can be with this. So it looks like that grid line right along that beam there, that looks good. We can head back to the other one and we can simply repeat this process. It's very quick, it's very easy. And there we go, our sheet is aligned properly. If we orbit a little bit, I'm just clicking. We may need to adjust the height. So we will translate that sheet, and now we can move it up or down to the appropriate location. Once the sheet is located in the model where we'd like it, we can head back to the sheet and click Done. Perfect. The next time we import architectural page 7 by clicking Add, Import PDF, we'll go and find it real quick right here. Page 7. We can append it to an existing sheet. Right here, page 7. It is now a revision, so when I start this upload, we'll be looking at revision number 2 of architectural page 7. And we do not need to repeat that scaling process. That remembers the modifications we made, just like that. Perfect, the sheet will come in where it needs to be. Turn on the structural MES plan. There we go. So I'd like to show you a nifty little trick right here I like to do sometimes. With this sheet applied, we can talk about the clipping planes and clipping box options within the viewer. We can perform this operation either with the sheets turned on or off. So here again, we have all of the options. We can apply a clipping plane on the top of the project, on the bottom, front, back, wherever you'd like. Let's apply a clipping plane, and we can see it right there. Now I can lower or raise that clipping plane, and I still see my sheet, so I can expose a little bit more of the model. And if I hit translate, it simply hides this clipping plane right here. So if I do that, it's gone. I see the sheet with all of my, again, dimensions, grid lines, joist tags, whatever we had on that 2D plan, along with the model. And it gives me a little bit more so I can see those columns kind of sticking out of the sheet. It gives it a very nice, interesting look. And if this is the new updated view, we can head to the saved views right here, and we can update that saved view. Perfect. If we click the hide button, it hides the clipping plane. And if I click show, it brings it back. So let's turn off our sheet. Let's just take a look at our model. Let's hide this palette again. I like to switch back into a perspective view and talk about the navigation controls. So I have orbit enabled right now. I simply just click and rotate. Lets me orbit through the model, up, down, all around. I don't have to hold control or shift like in any other environments. Nice and simple. If we head inside the project, I can use the scroll button to pan. I can use the pan option to pan with the left click on the mouse. The look option is quite nice. It functions similarly to Navisworks' walk command. So now I am stationary. And if I click and move to the right, I will look right. If I move my mouse to the left, I look left, up and down, and pretty simple. Now, if I use the arrow keys, I can move forward, backwards, left, and right. I'm also able to use W, A, S, and D. And now I can combine those maneuvers with my mouse movements, so I can essentially fly through the project. I can walk along this catwalk here. I can fly out into space and head down to the reception desk right here. We can stop, turn around, head along the showroom floor. We can even walk into one of these offices if we'd like. At the moment, there is no clash or collision, so we do have the ability of flying right through walls or through floors. So just keep that in mind. So those are the navigation commands. They are very simple. We orbit, we look, we pan. If we head over to this column right here, and we're very interested in what this column is, if we head back to the project tree, and if I select this column, it will take me directly to the object and then show me all of the properties and attributes. So it's pulling all of this information in from the Revit environment where this column came from. If I select the wall, it tells me all of the information about the wall, so on. We, of course, have the ability of selecting multiple objects by holding Control. And if I have these 4 pieces of structural steel selected, I can simply put a clipping box around them. There we go. It shows me the extents of those objects. Great. We can create a saved view around specific objects we have enabled if we'd like. Again, that's up to you. If I clear the selection and then select 2 new objects, we can hide this, I can simply fit to selection to resize that section box. Or if I'd like to manually perform this operation, we can scale it. There are not tabs on each end of that section box where we can pull. We either scale it bigger, smaller, to left or right, in or out, and up and down. This is how we would resize a section box. And of course, again, you can just fit to selection. We can turn off the clipping box simply by clicking the clipping box command and then orbit ourselves out. Clipping planes function again the same way we saw before. We can put it on top, move it up or down, put it left or right. We can also rotate clipping planes. So if I wanted to give this project some kind of artistic look right here, I can rotate it and then translate it to move it down my project and kind of expose, the inside of the model in a unique way right here. Translate, hide, show, translate hides it, and again we can create a saved view model. We can call this one artistic if we'd like. Create and update. So as our project tree grows, we've got different places or different views, different combinations of models that we can go back and forth from. Let's clear that selection. Let's hide that palette again and talk about the ribbon up here. You'll notice that we have measuring tools. Actually, let me just put this clipping plane back on top here, reset it, and head to a top view. Again, I like to do all kinds of measuring in a orthographic view, so we're looking straight down. I can measure the distance between points. So if I'm interested in the distance between this column right here, it's tough to see, and the front desk, it provides me with a measurement in a straight line. It's using in my project millimeters because that was the units of measurement of the first IFC model that was imported. If your project is an imperial, you import an imperial IFC, your measurements will be an imperial. You'll also notice all of the additional dimensions we get here. So I can see the red dimension and the green dimension right there. So you get some additional information. This is the distance between 2 points. If we orbit a little bit, and I am interested in the, distance between objects. I can say I'd like to know the distance between this column and this column. It provides me with a dimension. If we head back to the top view, it's somewhat difficult to see those columns right there, but I notice that it's providing me the distance between the outside edge of those columns. This is the shortest distance between two objects. This is quite nice if we're measuring the heights of specific rooms or hallways, checking for head clearances. I recommend the distance between objects. These are what I refer to as ghost dimensions. They do not stay if I hit escape or if I perform another type of measuring command. So I said measure angles. Again, you'll notice that there's a snap right here. So if I hit 1, 2, 3, it tells me what that angle is right here between those 3 points. And again, if I hit escape or select a new measurement tool, those measurements disappear. Measuring area, we need at least 3 clicks to provide us with the area of an object. So if I click right here, maybe I'll come all the way down here to there. We'll go click here, over here, down here. I'm looking for the square meterage of my showroom floor. Again, this is a temporary dimension, so as soon as I hit escape, it will leave, and they're gone. I then have the ability to also provide the point coordinates of a specific object. So if I wanted to know the exact location of my desk right here, it provides me with the X, Y, and Z location. Let's orbit. Let's head back into a perspective camera view. Let's head inside. And I'm interested in hiding these 2 walls. Again, select one, click Control, select the other, right click, and I hide all selected. There we go. I can perform this on any number of objects, like so, to see behind them. Pretty straightforward. We're able to unhide all objects or hide selected objects here. So there, everything comes back. You'll notice it removed the category overrides of my structural model. So it unhid all of my structural rebar. So be mindful of how we hide objects. There we go. Refresh that. Sometimes we notice these big, they're almost like blobs. These are in fact areas that are referred to as spaces. So we'd have to hide those as well. Speaking of spaces in the model, we have a spaces command right here. Let's clear the selection. Let's turn off that clipping plane, and let's drop down this option right here on the architectural model. There we go. We just follow down a little bit. These are the levels within the model. These were rooms that were created in the architectural environment. So if I click electrical room, it automatically places a section box around the extents of that electrical room. And now I can hide this ceiling right here and see inside it. Perfect. I can say, show me the break room. We can hide this room right there, or sorry, that wall. There's the break room. And of course, we have the ability of scaling these section boxes to get a little bit more context as to perhaps what's going on around it. And once again, we can create a saved view of specific and important areas. Call that one break room. Perfect. And update, just like that. That is the extent of the navigation, measuring, clipping planes, and clipping boxes tools. We'll obviously take some hands-on to get comfortable in this environment. I'd like to talk about the options that we have right here. If we open the option dialog box, in the display tab, you'll notice we have the ability to mouse over highlights. I like to keep that enabled, so if I'm about to select something, I know exactly what I'm about to select. In that case, it's the beam, and in this case here, it's the wall. I've disabled X-ray on selection. If I enable it and I select an object, I see the rest of the project go into this X-ray view type of mode. I've opted to disable that. So personal preference, I find it very nice to disable it if I'm trying to select multiple objects. Then we have our clash sphere radius, so we should be familiar with what clash spheres are right now. We are going to see some in the viewer in a minute. We can either increase or decrease the size of those spheres. I can control my walk speed right here. You can increase that if we're not walking fast enough. I can highlight cuts. So when I've placed a clipping box or clipping plane on my project, we see this neon green type of cut right here. It's to indicate that a clipping plane has been turned on. The display options here all have to do with those clash spheres, whether they are on top of the 3D model or not here for view pinpoints and for clash spheres. If we'd like to display the clash spheres as billboards instead of spheres, I like to enable this option. And I like to disable the display pinpoints by default. I personally recommend saving the view state with the viewpoint. This has to do with issues that are being created. Now, depending on the size of the model, we may need to modify some options here within our performance tab. If we are dealing with a large model, I recommend disabling backface culling, the frustum culling, as well as progressive rendering. I simply turn all of those off. I'll even turn off ambient shadows. However, edge display, I like to enable this. I find it gives it a very nice look to the model. It puts this black line around all of the edges of my objects. If we don't like that, we can turn that off, and now we can see the difference right here. That's it with it off. And if I simply enable it again, we'll see the difference just like that. It makes everything more defined, more pronounced. In the navigation tab, we have the following options when clicking View and Model on an issue. We're going to talk about issues in a minute, but I like to display those clash pinpoints. They all have to do with those options we talked about in the Display tab. I like to show or hide related models. This is going to be very helpful. I'll give us an example of this shortly. I like to show or hide saved elements. This again will turn off walls or floors that maybe I had hidden, ceiling to expose the clash. I like to force a section box around related elements. So when we are retrieving issues with related objects, they get sectioned off. We're just looking at those issues. We don't need to force a zoom. I like to stay close in exactly where I was when we created the issue or when the issue was created in another platform. We have a section box overall offset. So when I select objects and I force the selection box around them or fit to selection, we can control the offset. So this will provide us with additional context as to what's going on around it. So if I increase that value slightly, we'll see the difference in a minute. And in the spaces, which we had just taken a look at in that architectural model, that's how we got to this break room. We can apply negative or positive values here. And again, it's in millimeters because that's my model's unit of measure. I can say, you know what, I want to go 10 millimeters higher. And on the in and out or on the sides, I want to go 20 millimeters. So we can put that into the navigation tab. Next, we have the measuring options right here. This has to do with the edge snap radius and corner snap radius. So when I click measure, it's how sensitive that snap to the edge or corner of objects those little nodes get. I like to keep mine pretty low so I can get very precise with those measurements. And finally, in the sheets, this all has to do with that hypermodeling a sheet on top of our model. Sometimes we'll turn on a sheet and we won't really see much. We have to increase or decrease the white opacities. If we have colors on those sheets, we can control their grayscale by sliding this up and down. I don't typically have colors on my sheet, so I don't have to worry about the color keys. I recommend leaving these options turned off, such as rotation snap. automatically filter on sheets. There's a very nice option for this. We'll take a look at it in a minute. And then the hypermodel 4K textures has to do with 4K screens. If that happens to be the case, we can turn that on. Let's close out of the options and lastly talk about the issues. So if I zoom back out here, let's turn off the clipping box. There we go. Let's unhide everything. Perfect. We see our whole model here and head to the issues page. Here are all of the issues that currently exist in this model. Of course, we have filtering options right here. So if we're looking to retrieve issues that are just assigned to us, we can find our name right there. Click. We can say, you know what, I only want to see medium, high, and critical priority issues that are new or in progress. Once we apply that filter, of course, our issue list is narrowed down, and then we can hide the filter. Perfect. Similar to the add-ins, which we've already seen, we have the View and Model button and the View Edit button. So let's just start with issue 379 right here. It came from Navisworks. I can see that by hovering right over it. If I click View and Model, it takes me to the correct location, and it applies the section box around those related objects, the open web joist, piece of ductwork, and it also put the two clash spheres in my model. And of course, we can orbit now and take a look. We can go ahead and just turn off the architectural model. There we go. You can see that clash nice and easy. Perfect. We can jump to the next issue, issue 376, resizes the section box. Perfect. Another option we have is simply selecting the title of the issue. So let's say we want to go back, or we want to go to issue 380. If we select the title, it actually opens the issue card right here. Now I can see all of the information about this clash. So when it's due, its priority, what it is, its status, when it was created, and whatnot. And should I want to make any modifications here, I can click on the little pencil, make those modifications, hit save, or I can click on the little envelope, or sorry, open folder right here to open that issue in a new tab. And here now we can again make our comments, use the @ mentions, so we can tag a specific user and post it. Close it, we're back on the issue list, head back to list, and then retrieve our next issue. Of course, in the viewer here, we do have the ability of creating issues as well. So if we come across something we've noticed or want to bring to someone's attention, we can, again, just use this big example right here, select the objects in question and hit create issue. The create issue palette slides out. We'll say clash from viewer right here. Excellent. Fill out the necessary attributes. This is located in the upper offices coordination issue. I'm going to assign it to my structural user for the time being. It's coming from the viewer. No confidentiality, no custom attributes. And I save it, and our new issue is now in BIM Track. If I clear the selection, head back, hit View and Model, of course it takes us right back to that issue, and it applied that section box because I've opted to, oops, it's in navigation, force a section box around related elements. Again, we remove the section box and we see all of the clash spheres and view pinpoints in the model from issues I've retrieved. We can simply click on these three little dots right here, hide the clash pinpoints, and hide the view pinpoints. If I say show all clash pinpoints, of course it turns everything on. We have the filter issue list based on clipping option here as well. So if I say, let's go from top down, notice how my issue list starts to get filtered out as I filter through my project. So only the issues that are visible are being displayed. If I go up a little bit here, now we're looking at 252. If I go up a little bit more, we're looking at 290. And a nifty little trick we can do right here is, you'll notice I grabbed, here, I'll take this floor right here. Oops, gotta go down a little bit. There we go. I have the slab, perfect. I have the slab selected. If I throw a clipping box around that object, now I'm looking at only the issues on that floor. And of course, I can scale it up a little bit if I don't think I'm encompassing enough, but this looks pretty good. That's my mezzanine level. Create a saved view. Mez level issues. Create. Here, update. We can come back to this view with our issues list and see those 199 issues. These these clash spheres are very intelligent. You can hold control here, select a variety of clash pinpoints. We'll take this one too. There we go, let go of control, and it filtered down to those two issues. Where did this guy go? There he is, he's back. Perfect, back we go. He mustn't have been within the clipping range. Oh, because he's on two different levels. Makes sense. We can show all those clash pinpoints again and perform that operation with specific areas in the project as well. So if I hit the clipping box and then, oops, hide all clash pinpoints, show all clash pinpoints, there are just the issues within that area of the project. We can create an issue like we just did before. We can hide all of those clash pinpoints and all of the view pinpoints. And we also have the ability of localizing an issue on the viewer. So if we wanted to manually place a clash sphere, let's say right here in this location, a clash pinpoint right there. And we just got to go back here and say viewer. I'll assign it to mechanical user, high priority, save. And we've manually placed a yellow pinpoint right there. Nice and easy. We can create paths. We have all of the same options right here as we do in the add-ins. So if I wanted to add an additional view state or image to that issue, we can orbit here, orbit around, take a look at it from another angle, click on the three dots. From viewpoint, we can add from current view, and now 595 has two selectable preview images. So again, it takes some practice in the viewer to get comfortable with the navigation commands. Again, we can click view and model to be taken directly to the issue. We can click on the issue title to be taken to the same place, but see all of the attributes. But I'd mentioned before we had attached these models to a discipline. I'm going to explain why. So let's head to the issues page in BIM Track, just like so. Let's take a look at issue 587 right here. We may have to, I've got to make a quick modification here. So the disciplines related to this specific issue are structural steel and mechanical right there. Perfect, we hit save. If we're looking at an issue that has related disciplines, we're able to open in viewer. This will take us directly to the viewer. It will turn on the two related models. In this case, it's, as I showed, mechanical and structural steel. So only those two models have been activated. There's my mechanical and my structural steel. If that issue contained additional disciplines, such as, let's say, architecture, when we go and view that issue in the model, it would have also turned on the architectural skin. So if we do that operation one more time, architecture, structural steel, mechanical, open in viewer, this time it will also enable or toggle on the architectural skin. We can already see it in the background right here. And in this case, it's a lot more difficult to see that issue. So be mindful of the disciplines we assign to the issues. We could have also have used categories and perhaps applied a transparency to slabs or floors. You'll notice that we're only showing categories from the models that are active. Let's go and enable a sheet again. This time, let's go with the MES plan once again. We'll see it hypermodeled on top of the model. Perfect. And let's turn off the models. You'll notice that we've lost the ability to orbit because now we are simply marking up 2D sheets. If I head to the issues list, you'll notice that there is a filter issues on sheet option. If I enable that, there are no results right now, so let's turn that back on. And let's just head in right here and say create issue. We can mark up what we're looking at. So if we've got questions about a specific location within the model, 2D MES sheet issue. Perfect. We can make it critical. We can say it's on the mezzanine level, of course. This is coming from the viewer. It's got a due date, and I'm going to assign it to my structural individual. Perfect. There it is. If we zoom out and if I filter the issue list on the sheet, now it will show me any issues that are on this specific sheet. So if I had another one down here, let's just quickly create another example. I'm going to do viewer. We'll just mark up these joists right there and hit save. Oops. Of course, how silly of me. Perfect. Now, of course, we're only seeing those two issues because they appear on this sheet. We can use the view pinpoints as a heat map. And of course, if we click on any one of those view pinpoints, it will take us to the same location, show us the issue card, and anything related. So of course, if we head back over here, back to the list, click right there, make any modifications, click the pencil, didn't assign it to an individual, make that change, whatever modifications need to be made, hit save. Now these two issues are critical.